I had the privilege to spend a lot of time with former Robben Island prisoners who had many reasons to be angry. But they had the foresight to say, we can have an anger that destroys everything, or we can channel the anger towards an outcome that is better for ourselves as a society and as a community. Our country has to be more equitable. Our country has to be more prosperous. More people should benefit from it. We've got to find a way, not only for South Africa, but for our continent. Of course, if we don't do that, the very conflict I'm avoiding may be inevitable. Because the best brains in the Middle East could not predict the Arab Spring. The best brains in the US could not predict Trump's triumph. The best brains in the UK could not predict Brexit. It's when a huge chunk of people feel they have no stake in the future of a society that they can bring the house down.
In a few of our client engagements in a place called Carolina in Mpumalanga, I was trying to explain to customers the value and efficacy of call centers in the modern age. At the end of the session, an old farmer stood up to give the vote of thanks, thanking me for my presence, willingness to engage, and answer all questions. While I was feeling pleased with myself, he delivered the killer blow. He asked if everyone knew Mrs. Gerber, the local librarian, and everyone nodded. He then said, I went to the library for a book. It was titled, Excellent, Consistent Customer Experience Through a Call Center. The book was written by Lincoln Marley, our guest here. He continued, Mrs. Gerber responded with a deadpan expression, you will find the book in the fairy tale section. Tell us about getting it wrong in corporate.
I think that many young people see us as senior leaders and they think that we've got everything figured out and that our journey was smooth. I've made many mistakes. I've made many decisions that were wrong on reflection, but that's part of growth. And that example gives three things. The first one is to not take yourself seriously and to be able to humble yourself, to have conversations with clients in their environment. Because in their environment, they can tell you what they think. And it might not be nice, but they'll tell you. So that example was giving that. The second one is a desk is a very dangerous place from which to run a business because you don't get a sense of what's going on. You read reports. And I've never seen anybody writing a report to be bad. So whatever you get as reports is always colored to be good. So it gives you that sense. The third one is just how much you learn about decisions you make at the center for clients and how clients interpret those things. And so that's the journey that I think many young leaders should go on. But if you're not learning and you're not willing to humble yourself and understand more from what goes on the ground, you become a leader who knows only what they've been told by the various people that report to you in a sanitized version. But when you go to the coalface, you get to see more, you get to learn more. So throughout my career, whatever country I've worked in, I've traveled the length and breadth of that country. I've gone to places you'll never see in the weather report. If I take Nigeria, which has got 36 states, I've probably gone to 28 states. The average Nigerian would have gone to maybe 8 or 9. In South Africa, there's no town that is a Standard Bank that I've not been. So that gives you amazing insights to know what goes on the ground. You don't lose your title because you're out there with your staff and with your customers. You actually learn more. Most leaders don't want to do that. They want to sit in the corporate ivory towers and announce what needs to be done. And they're shocked that nothing has happened because they were not connecting with people. They were not connecting with customers. And so that story is also about making fun of ourselves, right? And so some of the stories I tell in the book are about the things that are kind of like egg on my face, because I'm normal. I'm a normal human being, and I've always wanted the people I work with to always regard me as a normal human being and not as some omnipresent CEO, all-knowing CEO. No. My name is Lincoln or Lincoln, depending which school you went to. And if I'm fired by the organization I work with, I will always remain Lincoln or Lincoln. I'm not the title. I am who I am.
A young person asked me the other day, Tracy, how do I know when it's time to leave an organization?
You know, one of my heroines, Jacinta Ardern, resigned. She's the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And she said, deep down you know when you don't have more to contribute, don't have the energy, the new ideas, the whatever. There's that part of leaving. But there's also a time where an organization's direction and your value system are going cross purposes. That may be a time to leave. There may also be a time where you're working for somebody who doesn't have your best interests at heart. That may also be a time to leave. There may also be a time where your work is not fulfilling, is not challenging, is not growing you. That may be a time to leave. So all of those things are deeply personal based on the circumstances that every person kind of goes through. I remember early in my career when I left a law firm. I was much loved in that law firm and I loved that law firm. But I realized that law was not for me. I loved the law, but I didn't love to be a lawyer. And that was a very difficult decision. And I left. I still look back as one of the best decisions I took. The people that trained me in that law firm are still very close to me. I still admire them and I still love the law. But I was not going to be a lawyer. So never kid yourself. You can kid others. Know what is the right thing and make the decisions accordingly.
I'd like to understand why Blazing a Trail. Can you tell me more about the title of this book?
Yes, you know, I spent my time in the public service, and these were very important formative years of my leadership journey. Learning at the feet of the Mandelas, the Dala Omars, the Sibusiso Bengu, that first cohort of leaders, where to them public service was public service, and I learned a lot. But I started to see things that I was uncomfortable with, where I started to see nepotism, I started to see arrogance, I started to see the distance between the leaders and those that were led. And I couldn't find that the things we believed in were now kind of being implemented. And so I found myself in the private sector. It was jumping from one environment to another. In the private sector, I found this machismo, this arrogance, this brutality, the way people were treated, results at all costs, destroying people in the process. Lots of people with mental health issues because of the pressure in the environment, where leaders don't listen. Leaders were not growing people, and people would do anything and everything to succeed, even if they knife anybody in the process. And I said to myself, what leadership model can I follow? Because these two are not gelling with me. What I am increasingly seeing in the public sector and what I'm experiencing in the private sector are not talking to my values. Then, inspired by the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who says, do not go where the path may lead. Instead, go where there's no path and leave a trail. So I then went back to all the people who made me what I am. My teachers, my parents, my uncles, my aunts, my sports coaches. And I found that these people did everything to make me what I am without regard to benefit, without looking for reward or praise. And I always challenge everybody to say, go back to your village, go back to your township or suburb, wherever you grew up. You will see your teacher or your sports coach or your priest or anybody of those people that were there. They may not have moved up in the economic ladder, but when they see you, their face lights up, because their job was to produce people like you, and they do it out of the depth of their heart. I realized that the leadership path I was looking for was hidden in plain sight. That was leadership. I wanted to lead like them. I wanted to be compassionate. I wanted to be empathetic. I wanted to be humble. I wanted to be approachable. I wanted to inspire. I wanted to develop others. And I wanted more people to achieve not only their organizational goals, I wanted them to also achieve their personal and family goals. And that's when I started to lead differently. And results started to come. And everybody was like, how are you doing it? And I was like, duh, it's the people. And I would give them an open book exam. But many leaders keep on failing because the ego doesn't allow them to do what needs to be done. The greed doesn't allow them to do what needs to be done. The success at all costs, the selfishness allows them to do that. Today, we've got in many of our courts throughout the country a parade of rogues, CEOs, next to senior civil servants, next to politicians, all charged with unethical conduct. Big companies with big names, reputations destroyed. That's not a model for the next generation. So as someone who wanted to develop the next generation of leaders, as was done unto me, I needed to show a different path. And as I journeyed on this path over these years, I thought I had enough now to share with a broader audience, and hence blazing a trail to show how I've done this in different markets. Whether it's Nigeria, Angola, or Kenya, or anywhere, I've done it the same way. And it works. And it works. And it works. And I hope many young leaders can know that success doesn't have to be at the expense of the life of others. Success doesn't have to be at the expense of your values. Success doesn't have to be at the expense of your credibility and your reputation. More importantly, success is better when other people benefit, when it's success of a bigger group than individually you. And that's been my journey, and that's what Blazing a Trail has been about. Challenging others to blaze their own trail in their own environment, to walk that path that others fear to walk.
What would President Mandela say about Lincoln Mali today?
No, I don't think he'll have anything to say about me. No, I don't think I'm at that level. But the only thing that I think we can do is to keep his legacy alive, of creating a non-racial society, a non-sexist society, a democratic society. There are many people who say Mandela gave us false hope and gave us this notion of a rainbow nation. And there are many critics of it. And I say, okay, give me the alternative. What's the alternative? Where we are little homelands, Xhosas this side, Coloureds this side, Indians this side, whites this side, vendors this side. Is that the alternative? I don't have a problem with criticizing Mandela and the notion of rainbow nation. But as early as 1955, our forefathers and foremothers said South Africa belongs to all who live in it. It's easy to point at Mandela The Freedom Charter said that in 1955. Our foundational constitution reinforced that. Now, when we say there mustn't be a rainbow nation, what's the alternative? Is it people who come from Toyando cannot work in Joburg? Somebody who comes from Durban cannot work in Blackstone? Let's be open and say that, so that we have that debate. That we divide ourselves on religion, divide ourselves on culture, divide ourselves on language. Mandela's focus on the rainbow nation never said there should be no transformation, never said there should be no redress. Our constitution and our laws promote redress. There's no juxtaposition between a rainbow nation, a non-racial nation, and redress. None whatsoever. It's there. It's a false debate, right? But I'm no longer into the political environment.
No, we're
so
into corporate.
if I was, I would challenge people to say, let's put your alternative on the table. That says no rainbow nation. Let's have interracial wars. Let's have tribal wars. And I've experienced those wars in the 80s.
Give us a sense of the other trailblazers that you'll be talking to over the next few weeks.
Look, I have got amazing people like Itumeleng Munale, who's with the JSE, Lesaka Kanyago, who's the governor of the Reserve Bank, Mteto Nyati, who blazed a trail at Altron, some of my colleagues that I studied with at Harvard, who've put up their hand to say, we want to be part of your journey, to tell our stories. These are CEOs and top people in their countries, but they want to contribute to our journey. I also want to talk to young leaders who are doing amazing things in their environments. So I really am looking forward to those conversations for young people to see that it is possible, even from the most humble beginnings. Through many difficulties, people can do amazing things. And that's what I want to show a lot of our young leaders across the continent, for them to be inspired by these remarkable and wonderful stories.
Lincoln, thank you so much for inviting us into your home and for sharing your story with us. We look forward to the next few weeks where you'll be exploring other trailblazers.
Yes.
And I think my final question to you is there a second book on the way?
I don't know. I think because I come from a generation of storytellers, I always like telling stories. But I think for now, I'm focusing on this story. And I've been humbled by the success of the book, and a reprint is coming out in a few weeks. So people have been generous, and let's see where that goes. There is also a journey I'm on with Lesaka. That's another story. I'm not sure whether that story is ready to be told yet. So watch the space, there may be more. But for now, I just want to stay grounded and kind of enjoy this experience, and hope more people can kind of learn from this. And one exciting thing for me is 2 or 3 people who've always wanted to write their stories have reached out and are writing their stories because of this. So journeying with them on their stories is, I guess, for me, also as important as coming with another book. So we'll see.